That was a press conference at the CDC where officials addressed the death of Thomas Eric Duncan and new safety measures designed to prevent the spread of the Ebola virus. Joining me now is national correspondent for The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, and assistant professor at the NYU School of Medicine, Dr. Devi and also national political reporter for The Washington Post, Nia-Malika Henderson. Dr. Devi, let me start with you. In terms of these travel enhanced safety measures that are being taken at U.S. airports, Dr. Frieden was asked directly about how effective they will be, and I felt like he didn't fully answer the question. He basically said, well, the thermometers work really well. I'm paraphrasing. Are these enhanced travel screenings actually going to do anything in terms of combating potential outbreak?
Well, I think it's going a step in the right direction in terms of easing the public's concerns. So I think that is there. And in addition, they're giving a lot of written materials to the passengers, which could be helpful in case they develop symptoms later. But I do have some concerns. I mean, one thing is, are these quarantine centers in the airport actually up to the same standards as isolation rooms in the hospital? Because Ebola is actually a little bit difficult to spread. You know, you have to spread it through bodily fluids. But there are a lot of other viral illnesses, let's say the flu and other things that can be spread just by touching doorknobs, touching phones, light switches and stuff. So I have some concern about these various patients who have fevers just being put in these quarantine centers and perhaps catching other infectious diseases while they're there.
Jeffrey, let me talk to you. As that press conference was happening, we were talking about enhanced security in a post 9/11 world, and sort of these procedures we put in place, whether it's sort of liquid capacity or head thermometers when you come arrive in the United States from other places, including West Africa, and whether they're important not because they actually make us safer, but because we feel safer. And I guess what's your thinking on it?
Right. So this is the security theater question, right? I mean, this comes up all the time with the TSA. How much of what we're doing at the airport is to stop terrorism, and how much is to make people feel like we're stopping terrorism?
Right, exactly.
And so this is the same exact question. I would say, based on my somewhat limited knowledge of the current Ebola situation, that yes, obviously you might catch people in these screenings. But as we were talking before, I came back from Liberia once with malaria, and people have fevers, and people show all kinds of symptoms, and then people don't show symptoms of things. So obviously, it's not 100%. It's a very good point about the quality of these isolation areas in airports. So, I mean, I think a bigger part than the CDC might want to admit is about making people feel as if something is being done. Because, of course, what they know at the CDC and what a lot of Americans don't seem to understand is that it's very, very unlikely that anyone in America is going to get Ebola.
Right.
You know, it's still an unlikely possibility. But they feel like it's becoming more and more of they're trying to tamp down whatever panic people.
Yeah, the security theater has decidedly ramped up. There are more sets and costumes for this.
I hope it's not a permanent feature now, in addition to taking your shoes off, by the way, having your fever checked. Temperature checked.
Nia, to Jeffrey's point, I mean, the new Gallup poll out says 22% of Americans are worried about getting Ebola. Do you think Duncan's death represents an inflection point, as we say in sort of a political analysis, that this sort of changes our sense of being vulnerable? I mean, because I think that the conventional wisdom was, given the challenges in West African healthcare, if you come to the United States, you will be okay. And here, Thomas Eric Duncan is proving that is not the case at all.
Yeah, and I think we don't know that yet. As you said, that poll essentially suggests 75% of Americans aren't that concerned about Ebola. Whether or not this will be a tipping point, an inflection point in terms of how Americans feel, we'll have to see. What we have seen, I think, from politicians is a lot of, sort of heightened rhetoric around this.
Nia, I hate to interrupt you, but there is another press conference happening in Frisco, Texas with